There was a time I believed trading success was hidden behind a single secret, a magic strategy, a formula, a code that only the chosen few had discovered. I spent years chasing that ghost. Every time I thought I'd found it, it slipped through my fingers like sand. I remember staring at my laptop at 2:37 a.m., surrounded by open tabs, YouTube gurus, Discord groups, PDFs titled The Holy Grail Strategy. My charts looked like an abstract painting, full of indicators blinking like Christmas lights. I was exhausted, but my mind refused to rest. Because what if the next video had the answer? What if I was just one click away from the truth that would change everything? That's the illusion most traders fall for. The idea that there's a secret formula that guarantees profit. It's comforting to believe in it because it gives us hope, a way to feel in control of a market that seems designed to break us. But the truth? The truth is brutal. I learned it the hard way, not from a course or a mentor, but from losing, over and over. Every time I lost, I told myself, I just need a better system. Every time I changed systems, I lost again. And then I realized the problem was never the system. It was me. Trading doesn't reward those who search for secrets. It rewards those who face themselves. That realization didn't come easy. It came after years of obsession and a moment of complete breakdown when I finally understood that the search for the Holy Grail was the very thing keeping me from becoming a trader.
When I first stepped into the world of trading, I was 23, fresh out of college, full of energy, and absolutely convinced that I was smarter than the average person. I had always been good with numbers, and in my head, that meant I could easily figure out the markets. I still remember my first trade. It was EUR-USD on a 5-minute chart. I bought at random because someone on a forum said it was going up. 15 minutes later, I was up $60. I felt like I'd just discovered fire. My brain exploded with dopamine. I thought, that's it, I found it, I'm going to be rich. For a few weeks, everything went right. I wasn't following any system. Just gut feeling, intuition, and a few tips from online mentors. But every winning trade felt like confirmation that I was special. I told my friends, trading is easy if you have the right mindset. The arrogance was intoxicating. And then it happened. A series of losses. Small at first, $50 here, $100 there, but then the market flipped. Volatility spiked, and within 3 days, I wiped out everything I had made, plus more. I remember staring at the screen as the final stop-loss hit. My $3,000 account balance was now $412. The sound of that click when the position closed felt like a door slamming shut. My stomach dropped. I couldn't breathe. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every trade. I blamed the indicators, the strategy, the broker, even the internet connection. Everything, except myself. And that's when the obsession began. I became addicted to the idea that there must be a hidden key, a secret strategy that separates winners from losers. I bought courses, attended webinars, and joined every trading group I could find. I filled notebooks with patterns, ratios, and setups. But no matter how much I learned, the results stayed the same. A roller coaster of wins and losses that always ended in red. Still, I refused to give up. Because deep down, I believed that somewhere out there, someone knew something I didn't. And if I could just find that one missing piece, I could finally beat the market. That belief, that desperate hope, was both my fuel and my poison.
The deeper I fell into the world of trading, the more I believed that success was just one secret away. Every new loss made me more determined, not to understand the market, but to find the shortcut. I started collecting strategies like trophies, Fibonacci retracements, Elliott waves, Bollinger Bands, supply and demand zones. I mastered them all, or at least I thought I did. My desk looked like a war room. Multiple monitors, dozens of indicators flashing, charts zooming in and out like a video game. But despite all the tools, I wasn't winning. I was reacting to news, to rumors, to other traders' opinions. Every time someone posted a winning setup online, I copied it. And every time it failed, I moved on to the next one. The problem wasn't my lack of effort. It was my mindset. I was trading to avoid losing, not to understand why I was losing. There's a painful truth in trading that few want to admit. The harder you chase certainty, the more chaos you invite. I remember one night in particular. It's burned into my memory. Bitcoin was on a massive rally. I had missed most of the move, but I couldn't stand the thought of being left out again. I threw everything I had into a leveraged long position, convinced this was my make-it-or-break-it moment. At first, it worked. The price shot up $800 and I felt invincible again. Then, in seconds, the market reversed. A flash crash. My liquidation warning popped up, but I froze. I told myself it would bounce. It didn't. When the position closed, I just sat there in silence, staring at the empty balance. It wasn't even about the money anymore. It was about what it meant. That was the moment I realized I wasn't a trader. I was a gambler wearing a trader's mask. I had fallen for the biggest lie in trading. If I just find the right strategy, I'll always win. But trading isn't about winning every trade. It's about surviving long enough to let probability play out in your favor. My obsession with the Holy Grail blinded me to the truth that professional traders already knew. There is no secret formula, only understanding, discipline, and the ability to think in probabilities instead of emotions. For years, I was so focused on being right that I forgot to focus on doing what's right. I ignored risk management, position sizing, and psychology, the boring stuff. I thought those were secondary to finding the edge, but they weren't secondary. They were the edge. That realization didn't come in one moment of enlightenment. It came slowly, painfully, through failure after failure. And here's the irony. Once I stopped chasing the secret, I started learning how the game really works. Because the market doesn't reward knowledge, it rewards behavior.
There's a saying I used to ignore. You don't learn trading from success. You learn it from pain. I didn't understand it until the pain finally broke me open. After that Bitcoin wipeout, I took a long break. Not the kind where you pretend to reevaluate for a week and come back with the same habits. This was different. I stopped opening charts altogether. I needed distance from the market, from the noise, and most of all, from my ego. During those months, I started asking myself questions I had avoided for years. Why was I really trading? Was it for freedom or for validation? Was I trying to grow my account or prove something to myself? And the truth hurt. I wasn't trading to build wealth. I was trading to escape the feeling of not being enough. Every loss felt personal because my self-worth was tied to my P&L. That realization changed everything. So I went back to zero, mentally and technically. I deleted every indicator from my charts, just price and volume. I started reading about trading psychology, position sizing, expectancy, and risk of ruin. The kind of topics most beginners find boring. But for the first time, it clicked. I realized that professional traders don't think in terms of winning and losing. They think in terms of process and probability. You can't control outcomes, only your decisions. You can't predict the market, only prepare for its behavior. I started journaling every trade, not just the result, but my state of mind when I entered it. Fear, greed,
hesitation, I tracked them all. I wanted to see the patterns inside me that were costing me money. And when I looked at those notes, I saw the same story repeating. Every time I tried to force a trade, I lost. Every time I waited for the market to show me something, I won or at least lost small. Slowly, I began to build consistency, not because I had a perfect system, but because I stopped fighting myself. I stopped trading to win. I started trading to execute well. The irony was almost cruel. Once I stopped chasing profits, the profits started coming. It wasn't magic. It was math, discipline, and emotional control. Every professional trader I admired wasn't superhuman. They were self-aware. That's when I truly understood what trading mastery means. It's not about knowing the market. It's about knowing yourself in the market. The turning point wasn't when I found a new strategy. It was when I accepted that no strategy would ever save me from my own impulses. And from that acceptance came something I hadn't felt in years: clarity.
The real transformation didn't come from any single trade or breakthrough. It came from a simple, uncomfortable truth I could no longer ignore. The market doesn't reward intelligence. It rewards discipline. For years, I thought being smart meant I could outthink the market, find patterns others couldn't see, discover the hidden key to profit. But the longer I traded, the clearer it became. The market wasn't a puzzle to solve. It was a mirror, one that reflected my every weakness, fear, and ego-driven move. The lesson that finally sunk in was this: there is no secret, no holy grail indicator, no ultimate setup, no magical institutional method that makes you rich overnight. The only thing that works, sustainably, is a system that fits you. That's when I stopped chasing what others were doing. I stopped buying courses that promised 95% accuracy. I stopped comparing myself to traders who flaunted screenshots of 500% gains. Instead, I studied why professional traders last for decades while others burn out in months. And the answer wasn't about entries or exits. It was about risk and behavior. Every elite trader, from Paul Tudor Jones to Linda Roschke, has one thing in common. They treat loss as a normal cost of business. They don't avoid pain, they manage it. So I began to build my system around that idea. Not how can I win more, but how can I lose better? I started focusing on expectancy, the mathematical expectation of my trades. If I risked 1% per trade and made 2% on average, I didn't need to win all the time. I just needed to stay consistent long enough for the math to work in my favor. Trading became less emotional, more mechanical. The charts didn't feel like a battlefield anymore. They felt like data. That shift from emotion to execution was the real secret I had been searching for all along. The irony? It wasn't hidden in any book or mentorship. It was right there, waiting for me to stop looking for shortcuts. Once I stopped obsessing over how to beat the market and started focusing on how to play my role within it, things changed fast. My equity curve smoothed out. My mindset calmed down. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes to see if I was up or down. I was finally trading like a professional, not because I was making millions, but because I was detached from the need to. That's the paradox of mastery. You stop chasing results, and that's when results start to appear. This was the moment I finally understood the lesson every successful trader learns sooner or later. You don't find the market's secret. You find your own system, and you protect it with discipline.
15 years in the market teaches you things no book ever will. You begin to see patterns, not just in charts, but in people, and how traders behave, how they react, how they sabotage themselves. The first big insight is this: trading isn't about prediction, it's about adaptation. Retail traders love to believe they can predict the next move. They draw lines, Fibonacci levels, or supply zones and feel confident that price will respect this level. But the market doesn't care. It moves where liquidity lies, not where your line is. The professionals, the ones who survive, don't predict. They prepare. They have scenarios, probabilities, and reaction plans. They say, if A happens, I'll do B. If C happens, I'll step aside. It sounds boring, but boring is exactly what consistent looks like. The second insight: most traders lose not because they're wrong, but because they're unprepared for being wrong. Think about that. Everyone gets trades wrong, even the best. But when a retail trader loses, they panic. They double down. They revenge trade. They break their own rules. That's not a market problem. That's a behavioral problem. The market exposes your psychology in real time. Every hesitation, every impulse, every lie you tell yourself. It's a brutal mirror. And if you don't face it, it will destroy you. The third insight: your biggest edge isn't knowledge. It's emotional control. Knowledge is everywhere. There are thousands of free trading systems online. But why do 95% still lose? Because knowledge without discipline is just noise. Discipline, the ability to follow your system under pressure, is what separates traders from gamblers. And discipline doesn't come from motivation. It comes from structure, rules, journaling, accountability, routine. For me, that meant building process over outcome. Each morning, I didn't ask, will I make money today? I asked, can I follow my plan perfectly today? Because when you stack enough perfect executions, profits become inevitable. The fourth insight: you are never trading against the market. You're trading against yourself. The market is neutral. It doesn't care who wins or loses. It just transfers money from the emotional to the patient. That's why mindset is everything. You don't need to beat the market. You need to master your reactions to it. And the final insight, the one that kept me in the game this long, is simple but profound. Trading isn't about getting rich. It's about staying in the game long enough to let compounding do its work. Most people quit before they ever reach the point where skill meets patience. They chase one system after another. But the pros know consistency is built on boredom. If you can execute the same plan day after day without the need for excitement, that's when trading becomes effortless. It's not sexy, it's not glamorous, but it's real. That's what 15 years in the market has taught me, that success isn't found in complexity, but in consistency.
There wasn't a single moment of lightning strike clarity. It was more like waking up one morning and realizing the fog had quietly lifted. After years of chasing systems, blowing accounts, and blaming the market, I began to notice something strange. When I stopped trying so hard to win, I started losing less. When I traded smaller, I thought clearer. And when I finally accepted that losses were part of the game, not personal failures, everything began to change. The real turning point came during one of the quietest trading weeks I can remember. It was mid-2018, summer. Liquidity was low, nothing dramatic was happening, and yet in that silence, I saw what I had missed for years. Price wasn't random. It was deliberate, hunting for liquidity, faking momentum, then returning to equilibrium. I watched it move, not as chaos, but as a rhythm. And I realized the market isn't a puzzle to solve. It's a conversation to listen to. That's when I discovered smart money concepts. For the first time, I understood why the market behaves the way it does. not just how. I saw how liquidity pools formed above equal highs, how stop hunts weren't accidents, but orchestrated moves. I learned that what retail traders see as breakouts are often traps, bait for those who don't understand how institutions move money. It felt like learning to read the hidden language of the market. But here's the twist. It wasn't just the concepts that changed me. It was how I started to think. I stopped needing to be right. I started focusing on context, probability, and risk. I became less emotional, more mechanical, yet somehow more connected to the flow. That shift in mindset changed everything. My charts looked simpler, my trades were fewer, my days were calmer. And for the first time, I wasn't trading to prove anything. I was trading to survive and thrive long term. I remember one trade vividly. Euro USD, New York session, liquidity sweep above a prior high. I waited, watched the stop hunt play out, price reversed, confirming the move. I entered. 5 minutes later, I was in profit. Not because of luck, but because I understood the logic behind the move. It wasn't about winning that trade. It was about aligning with the real game. That's when I truly felt like a trader, not a gambler. The biggest realization? The market never changed. I did. The chaos was always there, but now I could see the structure beneath it. I could feel the rhythm, anticipate the traps, and trust my process. And that's when everything finally clicked. It wasn't about finding a secret indicator. It was about unlearning everything that kept me blind and learning to see what was always there. That's the day I stopped chasing the market and started moving with it.
After that shift, I realized something simple but profound. The market doesn't reward those who know the most. It rewards those who behave the best. All those years I'd spent looking for a secret strategy, they weren't wasted, but they were misguided. The truth was, I didn't need a holy grail. I needed a process. So here's what I started doing differently, the exact approach I wish I'd known at the beginning. 1. Simplify the chart. I stripped away everything. No indicators, no oscillators, no moving averages. Just price, time, and liquidity. I learned to mark liquidity zones, imbalance areas, and market structure shifts. That was it. Every trade had to make sense through those lenses. If it didn't, I didn't take it. Simplicity became my edge. 2. Embrace probabilities, not predictions. I used to think a good trader knows what will happen next. Now I know a good trader accepts that anything can happen next. I started thinking like a casino, not a gambler. Every trade was one roll of the dice in a game with positive expectancy. My job wasn't to win every hand. It was to manage risk so that when the odds played out, I'd still be standing. 3. Define risk like a professional. Retail traders focus on entries. Professionals focus on exposure. I decided that every trade would risk no more than 1% of my account. If I had a bad day, I'd walk away. If I had a good one, I wouldn't get greedy. Protecting capital became rule number 1, because when you protect capital, you protect clarity. 4. Journal everything. This is the least glamorous habit, but most transformative I've built. I record every trade, why I took it, how I felt, what I saw. Patterns emerge over time, emotional impulses, recurring mistakes, consistent edges. You don't grow as a trader by trading more. You grow by understanding yourself through your trades. 5. Learn from the smart money. Don't copy them. When I started studying institutional concepts, I made the same rookie mistake. I copied setups. But true smart money isn't about entries, it's about intent. Why did they move price there?
Who are they trapping? Where are they unloading positions? When you start thinking like that, you stop chasing candles and start tracking footprints. 6. Build emotional resilience. You can have the best system in the world. If you can't sit through drawdown, you'll sabotage it. So I began to train my emotions like a muscle. Meditation, exercise, routine. Not because they make me spiritual, but because they keep me steady when money's on the line. At the end of the day, the real application of trading wisdom isn't in chart patterns or indicators. It's in how you think, act, and endure. That's the difference between retail traders and professionals. Professionals don't chase winning systems. They build one rule at a time, one loss at a time, until their process becomes bulletproof. And once that process is in place, the results take care of themselves.
It took me more than a decade to realize that trading was never about mastering charts. It was about mastering myself. The irony? The market had been trying to teach me this lesson all along. Every loss was feedback. Every frustration was a mirror. Every false hope of finding a perfect system was the universe asking, when will you stop running from yourself? Once I began trading with that awareness, everything changed. I stopped waking up anxious about setups. I stopped revenge trading. I stopped letting a losing day ruin my mood. Instead, I started focusing on consistency in behavior, not in profit. And slowly, consistency in results followed. One day, a friend asked me, "So what's your edge now? What system are you using?" I smiled, because for the first time, I had a clear answer. My edge wasn't my entries. It wasn't my indicators. It wasn't even my strategy. My edge was me, the version of me that could sit patiently when the market was uncertain, the version that knew when to step back instead of forcing a trade, the version that treated a loss as tuition, not punishment. That's what separates the amateurs from the pros. Amateurs think success comes from knowledge. Professionals know success comes from control. Control over your impulses, your expectations, and your time horizon. Trading stopped being a battlefield and became a mirror. Every day in the market now feels like meditation, not because I don't lose, but because I understand every loss. And when you understand something, it stops hurting you. That's when I finally felt peace. Not because I made a fortune, but because I knew I could, on my terms, in my time, with my process. I realized something simple yet powerful. You don't trade to beat the market. You trade to beat your old self. And once you do that, the market becomes your partner, not your opponent. So, if you're watching this and you're tired of chasing shortcuts, take this from someone who's been there. You're not losing because you don't know enough. You're losing because you're learning the wrong thing. Stop searching for how to win. Start learning how not to lose yourself. Because in the end, the greatest trade you'll ever make isn't long or short. It's the trade from chaos to discipline.
If there's one thing I've learned after 15 years in the markets, it's this. Trading isn't about predicting the future. It's about managing yourself in uncertainty. Most traders come here chasing freedom, but what they don't realize is that the market doesn't give you freedom. It tests whether you deserve it. And the only way you earn it is through discipline, humility, and patience. Every blown account, every sleepless night, every moment you doubt yourself, those aren't signs you're failing. They're the tuition you pay for wisdom. The truth is, you can't buy mastery. You can't copy it, download it, or backtest it. You have to become it. through repetition, self-awareness, and pain. If you take one message from this story, let it be this. Stop trying to find the secret to winning. Start building the habits that make winning inevitable. The market doesn't reward talent. It rewards endurance. It rewards the trader who keeps showing up, not because they're chasing money, but because they're chasing mastery. So when you sit down at your desk tomorrow, don't ask, how can I win today? Ask, how can I trade better than I did yesterday? That's the mindset shift that separates the 1% from everyone else. Trading isn't a competition against others. It's a lifelong dialogue with yourself. One that asks, can you stay calm when others panic? Can you stay patient when others rush? Can you stay humble when you win? If your answer is yes, even just sometimes, then you're already on the right path. Because the market doesn't just test your strategy, it tests your character. And if you master your character, the market eventually bends in your favor. So here's my challenge to you. Forget the Holy Grail. Forget the noise. Forget the next big signal on YouTube. Start working on the only variable that truly matters, you. Because when you master yourself, you master the market. That's not a slogan. That's survival. And if this message resonates with you, if you felt that frustration, that hunger, that relentless pursuit of something real, then this channel was made for you. Subscribe to Staro Markets, because here we don't sell dreams, we share truths, real stories, real lessons, real trading. Master yourself, master the markets. That's not just a tagline, that's the journey. And yours starts now.